Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Cassie. I am the Evil Secret Ninja, and I talk about books on my channel. So today I am going over some spooky, creepy book recommendations as we're moving into October and kind of the fun spooky season. And I've watched some of these and I've tried to think up some different ones that might be of interest to people. The first two I've got are, I believe these are considered middle grade, and I have to say for like middle grade they are pretty dark and creepy. So the first one I wanted to talk about was The Call by Peadar Gavlin, and this is, I believe it takes place in Ireland. It's based a lot on their folklore. The Fae have come back to claim the island, and they're trying to get rid of people. So the children, when they reach a certain age, they disappear for 3 minutes. And while they're gone, they are transported to the world of the Fae, and they are killed or they are twisted, and they never come back the same. So now they train all the children, like, this is what you need to do to survive, because they want people to survive, and they've been cut off from the rest of the world. There is a second book in the series, but I haven't picked that up yet. So, but that was pretty creepy. The next one, which is also, I guess, considered a middle grade, is called Pan's Labyrinth, Gullermo del Toro. And this is, I guess it's considered like a dark fairy tale. This is the book like based off the movie. I know the movie came first. It takes place in like World War II. This girl and her family are at this farmhouse, and the girl, her stepfather, she believes is a demon, and she's trying to save her mother and her new baby brother from this demon. And she finds this entrance to the labyrinth. She has to complete certain tasks, and then supposedly she will become a princess. But nothing in it goes the way that you would think. It had this really kind of creepy atmosphere. People hold up in this farmhouse, and then there are the rebels coming against them, so there's a lot of like carnage and really horrible stuff happening all over the place. But it was a really great, spooky, scary. The next one, I have not read a whole lot by Stephen King, but I thought I would throw one in there, and I'll just put The Stand in there. It's not the creepiest book ever, and the ending, there were parts of the ending that I just didn't understand why they did that way with what the world's going through right now. But this is about a flu pandemic that wipes out most of the population. Something like 90, I think it was like 98% of the population. The people that are left trying to rebuild their world, but of course there are people who are coming after them, and those ones are led by a demon who is certain that now that the world has been pretty much most everyone's dead, that he now has the ability to take over the world. Again, it was pretty great. It was definitely creepy, and I recommend that. The next book that I want to recommend, this is a classic. This is called 1984 by George Orwell, and this is about a world where the past is being used to manipulate people, and they can only believe what the government tells them, and the government is constantly like changing the past and changing even the words that people are allowed to use, because they believe if they cut out certain words from our usage, and so that they're no longer there, we no longer know what to think, as we now don't have the words to describe what we're thinking. And reading it, I just felt like, I feel like parts of this are happening now that Big Brother's watching. So it definitely had like a very creepy feel, and like a really, wow, like it's almost as if the author knew what was going to happen in the future. The next spooky book, and it's really just a novella, it's pretty short. It's called The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And this is about a guy who wakes up one morning and he is now a giant cockroach. And so this was kind of creepy, kind of sad. But that's another one that I would suggest. The next one is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This is more like a mystery thriller type thing. But Gillian Flynn has a way of writing her characters that they are very complicated. We'll just say that. We follow a woman who is a journalist. She gets a call from her boss and says, hey, there was this murder in the town that you grew up in. We want you to go down there and look into it and ask around and see what's going on. And she doesn't want to because she does not like her. She never wants to go back there. She doesn't like her mom. She doesn't like her family. She doesn't want to be around any of them. But reluctantly she goes and tries to figure this out. There's definitely like some body horror and different things like that. And so just be aware, there's a lot of trigger warnings and child abuse and different things in there. So make sure you look at the trigger warnings, but it is certainly a creepy book. Another one, which again is also a classic, would be Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is about a man who uses dead corpse to create a monster and reanimate it and bring it back to life. And how this monster kind of wreaks havoc on his life and has no soul, I guess you could say, because it just goes around killing people. It is a classic, but it is still definitely worth a read. The next one that I want to talk about is We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. This is not like scary paranormal or anything like that. This is more like spooky, psychologically a little bit messed up. This is a book about a boy who commits a mass shooting at a school. And it is written from the point of view of his mother after the fact and how what he did affected her and about how she struggled with her relationship with him. It's really definitely gave me the chills. The next one is by Dean Koontz, and that is Funhouse. But in Funhouse, we follow this traveling carnival. In the Funhouse, there are some creatures that aren't quite human. And so when people go through the Funhouse, sometimes they don't come out of the Funhouse. The next one is The Secret History by Donna Tart. And this was definitely like a creepy, dark academia about a group of college kids who decide they want to kind of manipulate themselves in their minds and basically give themselves a psychotic break. And when they achieve this, they end up killing someone. So the next ones that I have are based on kind of true events or actual events. So these are kind of true stories or stories based on true experiences. And the first one is The Yellow Wallpaper, by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. And this is about a woman who is shut in a room with nothing to do and no human interaction and can only stare at the yellow wallpaper. And she's left there for quite a long time, and it's kind of what happens to her. That's definitely like a nice spooky read. The next two were anonymously published journals. First one was Go Ask Alice, and this was a journal written by a girl who was an addict and really got wrapped up in the addiction. It kind of sounds like it took place maybe in the 60s. Just kind of based on how she talked and everything like that. But it was how the addiction affected her and how it kind of tore her life apart. It was definitely had a bunch of creepy vibes. A lot of really bad things happened to her as she is traveling around doing drugs and different things. So be aware of whatever the trigger warnings are. And that was published anonymously, but it's definitely a creepy book. And then the other one that was published anonymously and is also a journal was called Jay's Journal. And this is about a boy named Jay who he also does get involved in drug use, but his thing was that he got involved in like devil worship. Kind of like his experience with that These are supposed to be true. These are supposed to be journals written by these actual people. Be aware there are, again, you want to check the trigger warnings in these because a lot of disturbing things happen in them. The next one is The Wave by Todd Stasser. And The Wave is an event that happened in the United States. There was a high school teacher, and he was teaching history and teaching them about the Holocaust, and the students asked, well, how could people be manipulated like that? How could people not know what was going on? How did Hitler convince people to be in his army when clearly what they were doing was wrong? And so he started this experiment, having them act like they were in the military. He would make them march around and do different things and do kind of silly little things, and then bringing in ideas that, hey, if you're part of this movement, you're better than everyone else, and people around the students started joining this movement, and they called it the Wave. And then there were people who started to speak out against it, say, hey, something's not right here, this is not okay. They started harassing people who were speaking out against this movement. So the next one that I want to talk about is When Rabbit Howls by Trudi Chase. Please make sure you check trigger warnings on this. This is a very creepy story. It is written by the woman who went through all of these things and all of the abuse and horrible, awful things that happened to her when she was growing up. She is recounting it now as an adult. She's in treatment because she doesn't understand there's something not right with her. Has what we would call dissociative identity disorder, or commonly known as split personalities, the origin of which are extremely traumatic events that usually happen in childhood. And she goes into quite detail about the events that she suffered and went through. And it is quite intense. But it is certainly very creepy, and you read it wondering how anyone could be so cruel to do that to another person. And the last one that was super creepy, this last one I want to bring up, is Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. And this book is about a group of women who worked in a factory that used radium to paint the dials on airplanes. And they would stick their paintbrush in paint that had a lot of radium in it. They would pull it out, stick it in their mouth to kind of twist the tip really small, and then they would paint the little numbers on there. And this happened at a time when they thought radium was actually this amazing substance that had all these health benefits. But as we know now, when you consume radioactive substances, you get really sick and you die. And so these women did this for years, consuming this paint. So as you can imagine, it ended horribly for them. And again, trigger warnings, there's all sorts of horrible, awful things that happen, so just make sure that you check that. Alright, so those are the books that I have for the spooky season. If you want to read something spooky or disturbing or a little bit out there, go ahead and pick these up. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!